Welcome back, friends. Our topic for today, living in the present moment, and that is why I chose the affirmation on contentment. It is an attitude that we need in order to appreciate and live in the present moment. I want to begin with this story. This is a story of a little boy called Peter. And Peter was a very restless boy, always daydreaming. Whenever he was in school, he was thinking of the evening hours after school when he could play with his friends. When he was playing with his friends, he would be thinking about the summer vacation that was coming up. When he was vacationing, he would be thinking about what he would do next with his friends. So he could never enjoy what the current moment gave him, what the present moment gave him. He was always thinking about something else, something better in the future. And so one day he was taking this walk along a wooded forest near his home, and he sat by near a stream and fell off to sleep. And in his sleep, very soon he hears a lady calling him by his name, Peter, Peter. He opens his eyes and he sees this lady, a fairy kind of lady with a silvery white hair flowing down her shoulders. And she had this little ball in her hand from which was hanging a golden thread. And she said, Peter, I have a gift for you. Would you like this gift? And Peter was curious. She said, this is a little ball, and can you see this little thread hanging from this ball? If you pull at the thread of this ball a little, your minutes will become like seconds. If you pull at it a little more, your days will pass in minutes. If you pull at it a little more, months and years can pass away as though they were non existent. So he was very happy. He said, that would be lovely. He could speed up his life the way he wanted, go wherever he wanted. So he takes this little ball and he's sitting in school the next day, bored and wondering when the school would be over. And he suddenly remembers this toy that this lady gave him. And he picks out that toy and he pulls the thread a little bit. And he suddenly finds himself a grown boy. He's no longer in school, and he's enjoying the friends he has got around him, is having a fun time. And he said, wow, this is fun. After some time, he pulls the thread a little more and he grows up a little more. Now he's got a girlfriend, he's enjoying that phase of his life. And weeks go by like this until he gets more excited about what's the next phase if I pull this thread. So he pulls the thread a little more. Now he's a man, a family, he's married his girlfriend, he's got kids. And but he also notices that his hair is beginning to turn white. and but he continues to play with this thread a little bit more until he comes to the point where he's 90. And he finds that the mother he loved so much, is no longer with him. His wife has passed on. His children have moved on to, to find their own life, their vocation. And he's all by himself, old. And he begins to feel, I have lived an entire life and I have not lived this life. I have not enjoyed the moments this life has given me. And he longs to go back to his school days. And he suddenly hears the lady calling him again, Peter, Peter, you've been very ungrateful. Because he told the lady, take this back. I don't want this ball of golden thread anymore. And she said, you're being ungrateful, but however, I will still grant you one more wish. And he says, I want to go back to being a schoolboy. And he goes back to being a schoolboy, and now he's hearing somebody is calling him, Peter, Peter, wake up. And his mom is there by his bedside saying, you got to go to school, get up. And sometimes when it is such a beautiful story because it in some way reflects our own life. And we have this energy switch with us in this age of Dwapara. It has given us so many options that you're feeling bored, restless. Let's go out for a coffee. Let's go out for a meal. Let's go out to the mall. Let's go out to the movies. So there are these endless variety show that is always before us, which we can choose from. And in that rush to do the next thing or to find the next exciting thing that will keep our attention, the energy up in the spine, we forget to enjoy the moment that God has given us. We're always fast forwarding our lives and we say, oh, time is flying by. How often we repeat that time is flying by, time is flying by. And the, the truth of the matter is that we have forgotten how to anchor ourselves in this moment. When we do so, Master said, perfect joy and awareness lie outside time and space. Isn't that interesting? So, the more we concentrate on this present moment that is in our hands, the future is not in our hands, the past is not with us anymore. You can't control that past anymore. But this present moment that we have, which we can control and direct the way we want it to, then we can create a beautiful future. Yogananda ji said, live quietly in the moment, and the future will take care of itself. Now, this doesn't mean that we don't have to bother about planning for, the year ahead or the month ahead or how you're going to pay your bills. No, all that is part of being in the present moment. But once we have done our plan, if this is a moment of planning, then you give your entire self, all your energy, you concentrate all your energies, all your heart, all your mind, all your soul into this planning. Whatever it is that we are taking up, we put our full energy, our full attention into that task. And what is more, to live in the present moment means, above all, bring God into it, spiritualize it, live in spirit. Even as you're planning, plan in the consciousness of spirit, in the consciousness of God. God, what is trying to happen? What is trying to flow through me through this moment? It may be to enrich the future in some way, but what is trying to flow through me in this moment? When we begin to anchor ourselves in this present moment, friends, we will begin to become aware of the miracles of life. Otherwise, we don't get to enjoy the miracles. I want to again share this beautiful story. Family, like every other family, they're getting ready for the day, getting the children ready for school. The father and mother are getting ready for work, and the dad has taken the responsibility today for taking the kids to school. And so he's rushing, and he's asking the children, oh, hurry up, we got to go, we're running out of time. So they all get into the car and he's driving by. There's a traffic light where he is impatient, hoping to get by the next person. And finally he comes and he's speeding by him. Then he comes to this railway crossing, and just as he's about to cross, the gates clamp down. And then he is waiting now at the railway crossing, wondering, my goodness, how am I going to make up for this time? So in his mind, he's constantly calculating, how am I going to get to that point? And while he's in this whirlpool of thought, he hears his child say from behind, oh, Daddy, we are going to get to watch the trains going by today. And, this is exactly the joy and enthusiasm that we often miss out on when we are always looking ahead of this moment, forgetting this moment, that we forget to smell the flowers, we forget to appreciate the blue sky. It often happens with me sometimes. I'm going for a walk. The first 5-10 minutes of the walk, I have carried my work into my walk, and I'm thinking, my mind is running with thoughts about, maybe we should do it this way, or maybe this is something that we'll plan for. And then I suddenly realize, wait a minute, this was supposed to be a silent, meditative walk. And then I step back, and then I'm looking around me, I'm looking at the trees, and then suddenly you begin to see the miracles of that moment. You begin to feel gratitude in your heart. Look at these trees, they're so beautiful. They are gifts that God has given us. Look at the clouds, the sky, the birds. You listen to the birds, you hear the birds, suddenly they are present around you. Till then you didn't notice them. So there are many such things in life, friends, the real beauty, the miracle of which we miss out on because we are not paying attention. And I think this is one of those precious aspects that we have forgotten, how to pay attention in a world of restlessness. We are constantly restless inside us. And so, one of the important steps we want to take, Yogananda ji would say, meditate regularly. This is how we pull back from that tendency towards restlessness. Toward, it is one of the ways by which we pull back from our tendency to keep pace with what is happening outside of us, forgetting our own inner realities. And we want to come back within ourselves, get back in touch with what our inner reality is. So Yogananda ji would say, meditate regularly. Go back into your spine. Yogananda ji said the spine and the brain are the altars of God. So enter into the spine in daily meditation. Come back in communion with your own higher self. And in that intuitive whispers that begin to awaken within us, we will begin to live more from that center of who we are, rather than becoming who we ought to be. And that who we ought to be is often defined by social compulsions, by our ambitions, our unnatural ambitions often. And we forget, we lose sight of who we are and what we were trying to become when we came into this incarnation. We came with a very clear purpose into this incarnation, which we begin to lose sight of. So, one of those most important steps, Yoganandaji said, towards living in the present moment, meditate regularly. Don't lose touch with your higher self. Then he said, do your duties cheerfully and with even mindedness, which is non attachment. The more we find ourselves getting attached to our outer attainments, to our outer goals, to what we were trying to accomplish, the farther we go from ourselves, the farther we go from contentment. But if we can keep ourselves even minded, which means to give the best, as Yoganandaji said, living fully, quietly in the moment, but non attached. We can live fully in the moment when we are non attached. If we are attached, we are not able to live fully in the moment. These are things, these are deep, deep thoughts to meditate on, and how we can imbibe the essence of these high truths. That what does it mean? What does attachment mean? What are the different ways in which it is affecting my life? What are the different ways in which it is um, taking the joys of life away from me? When we become more aware of it, we'll begin to plug those holes in the bucket, and we'll begin to collect that milk of realization, of deep experiences of truth in our life. And that we become that container of that milk pail of peace, of joy, of wisdom that we can share with others, that we emanate as a vibration towards people, and which people then too feel uplifted by. So to do our duties with cheerfulness and even-mindedness requires to bring yourself fully into this moment. And again, remember, friends, to do it in God, to live in spirit, to ask, Lord, what do you want to, how do you want to do this through me? There is this, I'm reminded of the story of Master when he was returning from a Sunday satsang back to his ashram. And he suddenly tells the driver, stop, stop, stop. And, I need to go into the store. And he goes into the store and he picks up odds and ends that he would never use. And the driver, even while he was watching Master pick up all these things, he was wondering, why would Master need all the things? He's not going to use any of them. But he picks up just those number of things, and he brings it to the counter. And the lady breaks into tears and says, this is just the amount of money I needed for today. And I was beginning to lose hope as the day was closing in. Now, if Master wasn't in the moment, how would he hear Divine Mother's whisper to him that please stop by and enter the store and help my child who needs help? If we were in that car going from one point to the other, we are already thinking of what will we do when we go home and what are the things to do tomorrow and so on. We forget to live in this moment, and we forget Divine Mother is trying to give me some message. She's wanting me to do something in this moment. And this is how God's light, God's power, into this world becomes, instead of a gush of infinite love and peace, it becomes a slow trickle because everybody is busy in their little self. So, to live in the present moment also means to expand that awareness of ourself from this little ego identified body to include others around you. And that others mean not only people, but everything in creation. All things in creation. We are a part of all that is. We are in relationship with everything else. There's an interesting point I came by the other day, which where Swamiji says, relationships are not created, they already exist. That from the moment we come into this world, there is that relationship of you and the other and the others. So we are already in relationship with all that is. We have forgotten how to commune with the trees around us. We have forgotten how to commune with birds and with animals. They're always talking. The whole of nature is continually wishing, wanting to commune with us. However, we are not able to commune with them because our hearts are closed, because we have forgotten how to live in this moment with all our friends around us. And all those friends include the birds, the animals, the trees, the skies, the river, the brooks, all of it. These wonders, these miracles, friends, we have put aside in our search for happiness in a very narrow way. And so to live in the present moment opens our eyes to God's presence in many appearances, not only in the familiar ones that we are seeking, but suddenly you will find probably that God is speaking to you through a little bird. Just the other day, when I got up a little late and I was sleeping a little longer than needed. Usually, I have this morning meditations from Monday to Friday at 4:30 in the morning. So on a Saturday, when get to sleep, I sleep a little longer than usual. And so this last Saturday, I slept a little longer than usual until I heard a bird outside my window. And I just intuitively felt, Master is telling you, get up. It's time to get up. You know, the moment that thought came into my mind, the bird also vanished. It was not singing there anymore. And I kept listening for the bird because even I was wondering, is Master telling me, hey, it's time to get up? And this is him calling me through that bird. I listened for that bird, it was no longer there. So it was such a beautiful moment. I just realized if we are open to God's presence in everything around us, within us, He is speaking to us all the time. And in such beautiful ways, adventurous ways. This is the adventure of life, where, unexpectedly you suddenly find a friend waiting around the corner, saying, hello, we haven't met in a long time, did we? Because we forget in our busyness of life and things, we forget a few miracles that happen that are always waiting to happen around the corner. So to feel God's presence in every moment, also expand the awareness more people. Every day do something, Yogananda ji would say, that you have not done before. And make a new friend. Make a new friend with a tree, maybe, with a bird, with an animal, with another person. And feel and try to feel in your heart God's joy. Master said, remember, perfect joy and awareness ultimately is beyond time and space. When somebody wanted to click a picture of Master, Master said, give me 2 minutes. And he went into Samadhi. That even in those so called mundane moments of life, he would bring God right there. He would become, in Master's case, of course, given his consciousness, he would become God, bring God right there in that moment. But that is what we are also aspiring to, friends, in our lives. That don't simply rush through it. Stop by, pause, as that reading on contentment said, live behind the present moment. Step out of this dream. Remind yourself again and again, this is a dream. Not that it is unreal in the sense that it doesn't exist. As long as our consciousness has not been refined to rest in the higher self, remember this dream is also real. But however, now and then, just as God exists beyond creation and also in creation, likewise, even as we do our duties, we want to remind ourselves that yes, Here I am in motion, but there's also a part of me that is beyond that. And so for us now and again, even as we go out to come back in, as we go out to come back in, to find that balance is also another expression to staying centered in the moment. Finding that balance, finding that moderation between extremes. You know, when the pendulum is still on the clock, there is no time. But the moment the pendulum starts going from one end to the other, time and space begins. So time and space begins as movements of thoughts, Yoganandaji said, in God's consciousness. So likewise, even when we are doing our duties, that movement of thoughts in our consciousness will live in time and space. However, when we bring the presence of God into that moment, that is stepping behind that present moment, severing your attachments to whatever you're doing, because that's where that ego identity we are consciously severing and saying that my identity is in spirit, and through what I am doing I will bring that consciously that identity of spirit alone. So in severing that ego identity of the little self, we allow the greater self to flow into what we do. But we need to practice these every day to the degree we remember. But the more we practice, the more we will remember. The more we remember, the more we grow closer to the center of ourself, to who we truly are. And then, friends, as Master grew to that consciousness where in 2 minutes he could enter into samadhi, past, present, future, no more for me, ever present, ever flowing, I, everywhere. That is the fruit of this practice of living in the present moment. But also let us learn to accept things as they are in life, not wishing that things were otherwise. That is also an important aspect of living in the present moment, to feel grateful for what is. Bring more gratitude, feel the blessings of God in whatever is standing in front of us, in whatever it is that we are called to face, to overcome. When we accept it with gratitude, God's strength is right there behind us. Because if we are rejecting it, friends, we are also rejecting God's gift, God's blessing that has come through that challenge or through that difficult moment to us. So if we can accept things as they are, offering our gratitude to God, taking it as a blessing of Divine Mother that has come from Divine Mother's hands, the more we enter into her presence. With that, let's take a few moments